Hey, what's up, everybody? So this is a little different video. It is a forensic astrological reading. I had stumbled upon this in a Reddit chat, and then I got to looking at Reddit and it was removed, but I went to her Substack, and it's from Elysian, September 29th of 2025, so not that long ago. And I'm going to just straight read it. You can't see the pictures, but I'll read it to you of what she said. So she goes, "This is a cold reading on the Gretchen Fleming disappearance from December 4th of 22. I was sent this image last night and asked if I could look into it." And all it was the Dateline NBC. You guys have seen that before. Most of you guys that followed this case. That image was like not long after she was reported missing. So she was sent that message, or image, I mean, and that's all she had. So she did a reading based off like the stars and where the planets line up and all that stuff. And normally I don't get into this stuff, but I will say, like, I have seen cases where psychics can help find missing people. So I'm going to read this, and it says what she means by a cold reading is that she only knows about this case from what's on that specific image. Bare minimum, because information can cloud things and make her second guess what the reading is telling her. So she just goes off the reading. Police are sometimes terrible at releasing exact timing of anything. And it says early morning hours. She goes, that's a lazy way to describe the last time somebody was last seen, especially from a public space like a bar, when they would know when by bar tab payments and video surveillance footage. Well, she's right about that. Okay, let's see here. There's a last seen chart, and she goes, since we don't have an affirmed time of death, we are going with last seen. First glance tells her that this was planned. It was seen as a game by the perpetrator and ended in murder. Interesting. The victim, the ascendant. And there's going to be a lot of astrological terms here that you guys don't know what it means. I don't know what it means either. I'm just reading it straight. It says the ascendant, that's a left horizontal line. I'll put a link so you guys can actually see the pictures on here so you know what I'm talking about. She goes, that represents the victim. It is in Virgo, so the victim is signified by Mercury. Mercury is in the 4th house at 25 degrees Sagittarius. The 4th house represents the end of the thing. It is the womb to the tomb, from early home to the coffin. And she may be ready to go home at this time, and it may be close. The trine or blue line to the moon indicates intoxication. Well, we know that from the bar footage. Patrons at the bar said she was very intoxicated, so much so that she was loud, obnoxious, couldn't really control her movements very well, is what they said. She goes, this might be because of a sextile to Saturn in the 6th house, the blue line. The sextile is tension. One thing the 6th house represents is illness. She may not be feeling well. Saturn is the physical body, immediately before death, all the way to the bones afterward. Female and child victims have a co-signifier, which is the moon. Here the moon is in the 8th house of death in the afterlife. And it is conjunct pars fortunae, fate. These strong 4th and 8th house placements are markers of pre-planning by the perpetrator. We talked about that this was a planned event, and we talked about the possibility of John Jason Pate being involved in it too. All right, so let's move on to the next one. She goes, the perpetrator. The descendant signifies the perpetrator. Here it is Pisces. So the perpetrator is signified by Neptune at 22 degrees Pisces. Neptune is actually in his own sign. This elevates his personal sense of power. Neptune is hidden things, delusion, obfuscation. He is good at lying and pretense. Here he is at his best at it. He is also at 22 degrees, the kill or be killed degree in any sign. It will become even more important later in this reading. This is another element that indicates planning. At the very least, kidnapping and sexual assault. Well, we've seen that. Being Neptune, when he is caught, he will not admit to this. The sun can be co-signifier of the perpetrator. The sun being in the 4th house with Mercury shows they are together in the same space. Then she goes on, a description of the perpetrator. Jupiter is conjunct Neptune in the 7th house. Another planet conjunct a signifier shows what they do or how they present themselves. Jupiter represents authority or the badge. This is where it gets good. Police, military, or retired military. So it's both, and she doesn't know this. She has no idea. She's just doing a cold reading. She's not been told anything. And here we've got the person of interest, Preston Pierce, former police, former military in the Coast Guard. So Jupiter represents authority or the badge. Because of Neptune, there could be some pretense involved. As wide of a conjunction as this is, it could represent 2, but 1 is definitely authority in the badge. It is possible he hunted with dogs. Piscean-type perpetrators generally have intense or noticeable eyes, darker hair in youth, heavy or noticeable eyebrows. They start lean and then can get heavy with age. And we've seen that. I don't know how skinny Preston was in his younger days, but he is heavier now. Neptune is a slow planet of maturity. It is an elder planet, like Saturn. Since the victim is Mercury, a fast, younger planet, this would indicate an age gap. Well, that's true. Gretchen was 27. Preston was roughly 56 or 7, about 30 years older than her. Stoyanovich degree, key 22 degrees, is conservative, cold in nature. Public office, public official, black, cold. We've seen that. Caleb Black on the fake profile he ran on TikTok and Facebook. Cold, fear to take control. Ice, cold, snow to block, barricade, or tie up. A rocky or sandy location. She's got that in bold words. Older person, one who might have gray hair, can indicate the color black or gray. So we've seen everything about Preston Pierce has been about the color black. I've talked about that on multiple videos. The black car, dresses in black, Caleb Black, the profile, got a black lab dog. Everything about him has been black. Okay, so she goes on to say houses and aspects. The 7th house, the descendant is the 7th house cusp. What is in the 7th house is what the victim sees at this moment in time. Here, it is the perpetrator. When a perpetrator is in the 7th house, it can indicate they are someone the victim trusts or would be expected to trust. This is not a complete stranger. She has seen him around at the very least. We've talked about that, so there's a possibility that she knew Preston from before, and that's probably why she went in the casino room with the drink that he proffered her. And we've already talked about she was already intoxicated before she was handed the drink from Preston. When John Jason Pape may have handed her off to Preston, she was already way past intoxicated. So was she given a date rape drug before that? There's a possibility that they were working together. And Elysian talks about that in her reading. She says there may be 2, but there's definitely 1, and that authority is the badge. She goes on, but Mercury is square or red line to Neptune. She does not like this person. There is a strong element of negative tension between them, which she might hide. Unpleasant previous contact, or maybe it's her instinctual hackles are up. She goes on to say the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of death, the afterlife, the spirit body. Moon, the co-signifier of the victim, is conjunct Pars Fortunae at 29 degrees. Pars is a point of fate in a chart. Here, that represents misfortune. The 29th is the anaretic degree in astrology. The word anareta means destroyer in Greek. It is an ancient astrological term used to describe evil or bad luck, and it referred to the ruler of the 8th house or the planets that were therein. Here we literally have Pars conjunct our victim, which is the moon, in the 8th house at the anaretic degree. That is an unbelievable act of fate. T-square aspect. Moon and Pars are the point of an important and very negative configuration called a T-square, the red triangle. Each of the points signify negative energies ricocheting from or to each other. The other 2 points are dark moon Lilith, 11th house, and Pluto in the 5th house. Pluto is the god of death and the underworld. It is the natural ruler of the 12th house of imprisonment, self-undoing, and physical death. Lilith is feminine strength and independence. I normally see Lilith strongly aspected in the charts of women who are killed or harmed by sociopathic or psychopathic males. Males of false ego, hiding weakness. They detest strengthened women. I've seen that with Gretchen. She was very strong-headed in her beliefs. She was very political. She went to college for, I think it was political justice, or political science, I'm sorry. And, you know, she had crowds of people, so she was very strong-willed. And apparently, according to this reading, Elysian is saying that Preston probably detested her strength, that this was a planned event. She goes on to say the 11th house indicates friends and associates. Could that be John Jason Pape? She may have been encouraged by a group of people to be okay with the perpetrator or leave with him. Or it could mean the opposite. Pluto is in the 5th house, the house of children, young people, and sex, the party. In a forensic chart, it indicates something very dark. Another indicator of pre-planning. That was Pluto in the 5th house. Mars is in the 10th house in Gemini. Mars is in opposition to the victim, red line. Mars is secondarily related to the badge or authority. This is a more violent, hands-on reflection of Jupiter. Being in the 10th indicates that he was in the open, not hiding in a parking lot, and that he saw this as a sport. The 10th being the alternate house of public gaming, sports, hunting. Gemini duality indicates this is probably not his first act of violence. Gemini can also indicate dual personalities, 2 people or 2 personalities or people in one. It would be a good idea to check for other possibly missing women who had a similar appearance to the victim. We've talked about this. I feel there are other women he has sexually assaulted. Allegedly, we know this, we've been told this, but who fear coming forward. And I feel that he has a friend or sibling that knows or has good reason to suspect. Mars is also, friend or sibling. I won't go into detail on that, but you guys may know who that could be. Mars is also trine to Vertex, the 5th house, conjunct Saturn, 6th house. He sees this as a fated encounter. He may have been taking note of her and took advantage of her weakened 6th house Saturn state. It is possible he drugged her. Vertex is a crossroads, a point of fated, life-changing encounters with other people. It is also square to Uranus in the 9th house. This would indicate everything happened quickly. He may have hustled her out of there very rapidly with her in a haze. And we saw that on the surveillance video. I didn't personally see it, but I know what has happened on there. And they left very quickly. Even the police came out and said that on the documentary, that she followed him out the door. Okay, so this reading goes on. It says, becoming Venus. Libra and Aries are now on the ascendant and the descendant. She is now in Venus through Libra. He is now exhibiting his Mars, Aries descendant, openly, no longer protective Jupiter. She is in his car for a short journey. Wow. 3rd house, vehicles, short drives, neighborhood, siblings. The initial violence started in his vehicle. She, as Venus, is now at 22 degrees, the kill or be killed degree. We've talked about this, how they went to the Sheetz gas station. She was crying in there. People saw her in distress, didn't really know if she was just drunk or what was going on. And they were kind of scared to do anything about it because they just weren't sure. That would indicate that the violence started in his vehicle. Venus is in Sagittarius, Sagittarius rules projectile weapons. He would have held a gun on her. Neptune is in the 6th house, is square her Venus. He is showing her his illness or his deviancy. The T-square is still intact. And now they are both at 22 degrees. She fought for her life through Lilith. There is no way he got away without getting some marks. I am not sure about siblings, but anyone who grew up with this girl would have told you she was a real take-no-shit scrapper when cornered. Pluto is now in the 4th house. It is possible this happened at or immediately near his house. The FBI went there, did a luminol treatment. Areas adjacent to his house that would be private from the street, but drivable. I keep getting down and around. Grass areas and trees. Dogs would have picked this up. Saturn is in the 5th house, sex and deviancy, square to 8th house Uranus. Uranus indicates fast activity. He attacked her very fast. This is getting very emotional for me. Like, I can just see this happening in my head. You know, I mean, we already know he bought 5 gallons of bleach at Family Dollar, even though I've always said I thought he human trafficked her out. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean one way or the other is correct. I'm just reading the astrological forensic reading that she did off of a cold reading, and she's getting some amazing details that seemingly could be very right. Crossing over. This is where it's going to be very emotional. Pluto, death, at 26 degrees is on the IC. I don't know what that means. The cusp of the 4th house, which means the end of the matter. And Lilith is on the MC, the midheaven. Karma and fate are in direct opposition. Moon is in the 7th house, shortly to drop below the descendant horizon. Taurus, the neck, is now on the 8th house cusp. Aries, head, is now ruling the 7th house. Head injuries and strangulation, or cutting. The vertex has just crossed paths with fixed star Algol at 26 degrees Taurus in the 8th house. That is the most malefic fixed star. The Chinese call Algol the decapitator. Saturn, the body, is in the 4th house, at or near his home for now. This is the window of her passing, a time span. Regardless, by now, her spirit has flown. Saturn is at the exact midpoint of the sun, and the moon is at 20 degrees and 12 minutes. Saturn in Aquarius shows she is kept somewhere up off the ground in the air for a brief time, exposed, somewhere cold. This is December 4th. It was 26 degrees at this time. We have the sun in the 2nd house. The 2nd house is all about life's basics, finances, for the most part. He is thinking about what to do next. He probably tried to go about his day as if nothing happened. The sun is in the 2nd house trine, 6th house Chiron, also indicates concern about trying to maintain his regular schedule. Did he have to show up at work? There is a clue here, schedules, and a watch. So we talked a little bit about this, that he had to go back and pick up his daughter. I'm not going to say her name because at the time she was a minor. I believe she's over 18 now. But he had picked her up from Ravenswood the day after. So here you've got Elysian doing this reading, and she's like, he probably tried to act like nothing happened, nothing was going on. He has to maintain his regular schedules. Did he have to go to work? At the time, he was a delivery driver for Spark, and I think he was doing Uber drives as well. Okay, and then she goes on and says the Stoyanovich degree key is Saturn, the body at 20 degrees, ruled by Mars and Pluto. Secrets, rape, revenge, death, sex, distraction, real estate, sewers, and we talked about a sewer, a hidden sewer being right there at that house that takes you back up to old Kmart. I've never been able to find that sewer, but it's there. Witnesses saw him go in there in previous years, and they said, "What are you doing down here, weirdo?" And he goes, "I'm chasing cats." And they kind of like chased him away from that. That's been some years ago. Let's see here, but it couldn't have been too many because he didn't live there that long. So if key witnesses saw him, and I need to touch base and find out who saw him. If they saw him going down in sewers, that would have been right before this happened. So it really wasn't years ago, it was 3 years ago. That could be a very big clue here. And then she goes on, it says, sewers, deep pipes you cannot see that go to water. Culverts, shallow, dark water. What is another person's jealousy pregnancy? And we've seen on a lot of his fake accounts, he's got pictures of the water on these cover photos a lot. Let's see here. Fixed stars. 25 degrees, 47 minutes, Cancer. Procyon conjuncted, that's a star, conjunction with Lilith. Violence, sudden success, then disaster. Related to dogs. Dogs could find her. Possibly dogs are related to the event or afterward. Unfortunate, Mars, Mercury. Did he hunt with dogs? I don't know anything about that. I've never been able to find that in any of my research. But we did have cadaver dogs with the police, but I don't know. 23 degrees, 29 minutes, Pisces. I guess there's a star called Markab, conjunction with Neptune. Markab is a true black malefic in traditional astrology, promising injury by one's hand or another's and life imprisonment. Indicates he will be caught. Violence, star of sorrow, accidents. Unfortunate, Mars, Mercury, Venus. 24 degrees, 1 minute, Sagittarius. Lisath, conjunction with Mercury. The scorpion sting, danger, desperation, immorality, and malevolence, connected with acid poisons, accidents, catastrophes, unfortunate, Mercury, Mars. Now we get on to the body location. A correct mapping attempt requires an exact time. She never had an exact time. I could provide her with that. Either last seen or exact time of a 911 call or a missing persons report. Unfortunately, I cannot get an exact time for anything. I am already swinging from the rafters, rectifying this last seen chart. All I can give is a hill or ridge, a higher location that descends to a lower location, probably near large pipes, sand or gravel. She mentioned that before, a sandy or gravel location, and dropping down to water. Well, that would kind of be a riverbank, right? But she's talking about a hill or ridge, a higher location that descends to a lower location. And out by that house on Division Street Extended, we see that the hills are everywhere. This area is right by Franklin Elementary. There's a pond back there. It's a wooded area. She talked about a grassy and wooded area. But we've got hills, South Parkersburg, and we're going to get into that here. She continues. She goes, this will be from Saturn, north, northwest, from home location. This is big. Flag decal. Very large, maybe a painting on industrial gray. Are there any paintings of flags on a barn out there? On a shed? A house? Are there any flags? She mentions a flag decal, very large. Could that be on a water tower? I'm trying to think. What could this be on? On industrial gray. Think about the location. Industrial gray. Could it be a warehouse? Could it be a storage building? You know, our she's deceased now, but Cole Clicks, she worked with us on this case, and she was a medium. And she just said time and time again, she said, I keep feeling that the number 2 comes into play with this in a metal storage box. She said the metal thing could be anything. She said it could be a storage locker. She said it could be a metal box. She said it could be a water tower. She said, I don't know. But she said metal keeps coming up. and the number 2. And she kept thinking, well, maybe that meant Route 2 out there. So a lot of people were really hyper-focused on Route 2 and looking at storage lockers out on Route 2. I don't know. But Elysian in her reading says a flag decal, very large. Maybe it's a painting on industrial gray. And also stickers on white and gray. So this also came up in her cold reading. Stickers on white and gray. Does that ring any bells for anybody at all? When meditating, I also saw dry bones that were washed out of a hillside and are now exposed. This may be another woman. It likely is. She talked about the possibility of there being other victims. There is an electrical tower in sight line up over the hill and a road that looks fit for ATV or four-wheelers down below it. So right out here, not too far, we've got a major hill that has electrical towers with the power lines going down it. And while it's not a road, it's just a grassy area where those towers are, cleared out between the trees. You can take a four-wheeler or an ATV down there. But she does say a road. I'll read that one more time. When meditating, I also saw dry bones that were washed out of a hillside and are now exposed. This may be another woman. It likely is. There is an electrical tower in sightline up over the hill and a road that looks fit for ATV or four-wheelers down below it. I'll do more meditating tonight and try to focus on a place or a person, a name, or an image. If I get anything, I will add it here. And then this is the very end of it. This is the last little paragraph. She goes, there are indications that he or they, if two, John, Jason, Pape, will eventually be arrested. And implications there will be a death. Perhaps the self-unaliving. Thanks for reading, Elise. Let's see here. There are some comments in the discussion. Looks like just one comment says, wow, this is absolutely fascinating work that you have done on this case. Utmost respect to you for the interpretations and hopefully some serious pointers to work from to solve this case and to help family and friends find answers. So, fascinating reading right there. Like I said, the things that jump out, a flag decal, could be a painting on industrial gray, stickers on white. We talked about the Darth Vader stickers on his car. That was a black car, the black Nissan Rogue One. But I'm trying to think, I know this area pretty well, I've done searches, and I'm just trying to think, where would there be a big flag decal, a big flag painting? She mentions bones washed out of a hillside from an upper to a lower elevation. She talks about a sandy or a gravel location near water. That could be the Ohio River. So I don't know, but I'm going to try to focus on this again, look into it, because a lot of what she said does make sense. And she says that eventually she thinks they're going to be caught. So maybe her reading will help. So I don't know. Previous videos, I've been focused on what's been going on with Ty Thomas and Haley Busby and how that location lines up with a woman who was murdered 20 years prior, dumped out off the same trail, the North Country Roads trailhead. So, interesting stuff. Still haven't contacted anybody about it. I've been busy getting stuff cleaned up around here. So, anyway, that's what I got right now. I told you guys I come out with a forensic astrological reading. I've never done one of these before. I've never delved into one, but it's pretty fascinating. And like I said, a lot of what she put really lines up about how the intoxication, there may have been two people, and the struggle would have been in a car, and how he likely didn't leave without marks on him, how she was a no-shit scrapper. So I'm sure the family and friends would probably attest to that. One quick thing, a former coworker told me that he lives in Vienna and he's neighbors to where her grandparents were, and he happened to be outside the day before she came up missing. Now, of course, he wouldn't have known anything at this point. This would have been December 3rd on that Saturday, and he said she was out at her grandparents' in the hammock reading a book. And he said she just acted like there was nothing wrong in the world, you know. She was just out there reading to herself in the yard, at her grandparents' yard, up there in Vienna, West Virginia, just reading a book. And he said, had I known this was going on, I would have, you know, placed more emphasis on noticing her. But he said it dawned on me after the fact that I just happened to see her out there the day before she came up missing. So who knows exactly what happened? Let's hope that justice can be served. I'll leave you guys with this. This West Virginia investigations team is working hard on several cases. I'm not going to reveal which ones or what they're finding out, but I can say I think they are going to solve some cases in our area here in the Mid-Ohio Valley, and I'm willing to give them anything from any of these videos that we've done. We haven't solved this case yet. I do feel like we're getting pretty close. So, like Elysian said in her reading, she thinks that they're going to be caught. And I've said from day one that John Jason Pape is involved in this. Whether it's human trafficking or it's murder, either way, I think they work together. But we'll see what happens. Is Ty Thomas connected in all this? It's very possible. We're still tracking an account, a Facebook account here locally in Parkersburg. It's throwing up a lot of red flags. So I'll leave you with that. I'll come out. I'll try to do another live stream tomorrow at 9 for you guys. Might be more about what's going on with the Epstein files. Trump is now set to release the UFO files. I talked about that. I told you last year this was going to happen. And they're going to do a false flag UFO invasion. Doesn't mean they're not real. I said all along for decades that aliens are real. I know a lot of you guys don't believe them. You think that they're fallen angels and demonic. I'll agree with the demonic for sure. And yes, there are fallen angels, but there's a lot more to the story. But yeah, follow that story. That's all coming out from the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and other agency staffers are going to be releasing those UFO alien documents. So just know that there's a timing, and we're in for some pretty tumultuous times, but don't be scared. As for you guys who have Jesus on your side, you know, I talked to my friend Penny down in Tampa. Penny's from heaven, who works with us on this channel, and she says, you know, if you've got Jesus, you've got no fear, because you're going to end up in the right place when it's all said and done. So no matter what happens, those of you who are saved by Jesus, you really don't have too much to fear. So appreciate you guys. I see a couple comments on here, and okay, just saying hi. So glad you guys are tuning in. Appreciate you as always. And yeah, well, I'll try to come back out with another live stream tomorrow night at 9. So thanks as always. And as always, Godspeed until the next time.